Welcome to the Psanctuary podcast, where ancient wisdom has a modern awakening. For thousands of years, psilocybin has been used as a sacrament. At Psanctuary, we're reclaiming that right, honoring the roots while rethinking religion for a modern world. If you've been looking for something real and something psychedelic, well, you've just found your people. Come on in.
All right, Greg Pentecost. Wow, here we are. I did not imagine we'd be sitting in this basement anytime soon from our last conversation.
And life has a way of just, as I told you the other day, like seems like so many things in my life are just up in the air right now. Because I didn't, like a week ago, or today's Sunday, no, it was Saturday last week that I decided to do this.
Wow.
So it was like, oh, here we go.
And I didn't even plan on wearing my Hawaiian shirt for you.
I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing, man. There's a lot that I would like to try to convey here, but let's just have a conversation, really. And a lot of that will probably come out. But
oh yeah,
you've been part of Psanctuary for what, 2 or 3 years now?
I don't remember the time frame. We can look at that. Because I know we had like a conversation about business stuff and then didn't really talk. Like you implemented a bunch of stuff and then we didn't really talk about business stuff for like 2 years.
Wow, yeah.
But I remember there were between 40 and 50 members when I joined.
Wow. So it might have been, it would have been the first year.
Yeah.
And you were in Hawaii. How did you even come across Psanctuary?
So God gives me signs. I'm always asking God for signs for things. And all of a sudden, I start mushrooms, like magic mushrooms. And I tried them, like high school, college age. And I was like, oh, okay. But they kept coming.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, if these types of things keep talks by Paul Stamets and other things like that. And I'm like, okay. But I also live in a world right now where I don't want to risk things. So I'm like, I need to find a way to, like, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to go down this path, okay, I want to make sure that I'm not putting like the rest of my life in jeopardy. And so, looking at the different churches for different things, and none of the rest of the churches seem to understand, like, I don't want to say anything negative about them. So pardon me if I try and put this delicately, but they just didn't seem like, I guess one of them, they'll kind of do any substance, and I was like, well, that doesn't seem to, like, that seems like like a legal loophole for dealing drugs. And I didn't want that because I'm like, that's not what I'm like. For me, God guided me here. Like for me, this is a spiritual thing. And so I looked at some of the other ones, and this is the one that really, like, I didn't like. I've done ayahuasca, and that was not a ceremony I want to repeat, like, and I'm not going to take anything away from it. Those are some of those powerful ceremonies I've ever been in. But it's not necessarily something I wanted to repeat on a regular basis. I will be, next time, as in the past, I will be called when it's time to do that ceremony. But I wanted something with a different level of access. And Psanctuary was the only one where I sat there and looked at it and I go, this is the one where I believe that you believe what you're doing. Okay? If you're out there just being a church so you can, distribute narcotics to people, well, that's a legal loophole. That's not a church for spiritual purposes. And that's not a church necessarily for community purposes. And and if you are doing it for community purposes, that's not necessarily a community I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I'd like not to take anything away from the people who do want that. That's not what I'm looking for. And so as I got to kind of know the community, and understand your story and Courtney's story, I'm like, oh, real people trying to do good for other real people. And that is what connected me. Because that's what I want. I'm like, if I just want it, I can grow it myself and I can do all of that and I can hide it from the rest of the world. But God sent me here. And if he sent me here to do this, like, he's smart. He knows that, like, we're meant to interact and be together. Okay. And so when we choose to interact and be together, we want to choose to interact and be together with other people who are on maybe not the same path, but at least a parallel path.
So, if you don't mind, I mean, I'd love to hear as much as you're willing to share, but can you walk us through that, what that message process, that communicate, like how did God tell you, or why do you feel that you were instructed to go toward the mushroom? I mean, it's just kind of like, if you're I don't know, you're not a cannabis user.
Nope.
Okay, so you don't really have a history with substances like these. You're
Not since I was a
high
teenager.
school or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So what were there circumstances, or was there just this revelation? Or, I mean, I know you said you kind of kept seeing mushrooms coming up and all, but
God directs my life. He puts weird things in my life all the time. And he makes them weird enough so I notice. Does it make sense?
oh yeah,
Okay. So it's not, and so when I keep seeing these things, I'm like, and I'm very clear. Like, I have a open communication. I told you about, my trip across the United States the past several days. I've been having conversations with God for hours each day. And I'm very clear. I'm like, there are times where I've gotten down on my knees. I'm like, God, show me the direction you want me to go. Okay. There are other times where he's like, and I'm like, oh, okay, what do you want? And that's this one. This is the one where he's like, this is what, this is where you need to go. And it was a big part of it, I understand now, was so that I could understand a lot more of the spiritual aspects, a lot more of the spirituality of who I am. It's real easy for me, I'll speak for myself, it's real easy for me to get lost in life, whether that's a project or whether that's my own depression or whether that is, the community that I'm in, whatever it is. It's really easy for me to get involved in things and kind of forget that. And like, let's talk about where I'm at right now. I'm moving my mainland base right now from Arizona to New York. That was really the beginning of a lot of that. Was because, like, the past several days, having conversations with God in the car, and the whole purpose behind that is he's like, because I have known for years that I have a purpose in life that he gave to me before I was born. I'm here for that purpose. But I've been very clear that this is a lifelong story, but I've been very clear that I wasn't sure what that was. Okay. And so I've been kind of jotting notes for, lyrics to a song called "The Waiting is the Hardest Part," because, when he first showed up and said, "You're here, you have a purpose. Hang tight." My early childhood was not pleasant, but he told me to hang tight, and that just kept happening, even though I didn't know what was going on. And part of where I'm doing now, he's now shown me one of the two things that he has me here to do. Okay. And moving to Rochester is one of them, to change that. help change that city. Not me doing it, but me playing my part in the change. And but in order to do that, we had to connect. We had to connect on a level that I think a lot. Okay. And a lot of people I know say I think too much. I'm not going to disagree with them. Okay. And he needed to get me out of my head. And mushrooms were the way to open my mind up enough to accept something beyond what this could comprehend. Okay.
Did you find, I just would love to ask this because it's been such a part of my journey. Was that immediate, or did you find yourself still in the mushroom space having to consciously move into your heart?
It depends really on kind of where I'm at. And some days, like you and I had a conversation a few years ago about, if I can surrender, like 1 gram is all I need. And man, like it's the most amazing, incredible experience. And there are times where I'll do 3 or more. And if I'm not connected, like, well, that didn't do a whole lot. So, but I needed to get out of this because I'll think a lot. And so, like, I remember one day, and he knows my passions so well, and he plays them. He plays my fears. And so one day I'm sitting there and I do something it's like 3 or 5 grams. Okay. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be great. Hour and a half goes by, nothing. And then I hear, well, go take all the dregs and make a tea or whatever. I'm like, okay. So I start preparing that, and there was a lot more than like 5 grams worth of remnants.
Okay.
Okay. And I make this tea, and about the time the tea is ready, it's kicking. Things are really starting to kick in. And I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, drink the tea. There's no way that I could have thought through what happened that day. But that's what it was about. It was about surrender and trust and really, like, I've got you and we're going to go amazing places. Okay. But this is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And so that's really where Psanctuary and the mushrooms really been bringing me forward in my life. Is allowing, and that's the thing, like, you and I have worked with different people in aspects of money and spirituality and things like that. And we see that this is what gets in the way the whole time. Okay. It's not our energy. We have energy that is there to help us. Like I say, God plays my emotions. He knows. Okay. Yeah. Just tilt them a little bit that way, tilt them. And all of a sudden I'm in these really weird, precarious situations. Like what was that, 13 grams that day? I would never imagine of taking that much. Okay. And it was at least that much. But he knows how to play my emotions. And I, as long as I surrender to him, then I go. And so it's really allowed me to just open up to his will and to trust in his guidance. And knowing that, okay, my plan, the way I look at things, the things that I necessarily want for this world, I'm really good, but I'm so much better when my plan is actually his plan. And I'm allowing my plan to align with his. Okay. Because when, like, he's got this plan, and if I just trust him and he's like, go over here and do this, And then I go do that. It's so much easier than if I'm like, I got to go do that. And if I just go, oh, okay, I'll go do that. Well, hold on, wait. If I'm going to go do that, I've got this part that I know that could do really good. Is that okay? It's like, okay. And all of a sudden, that's not addition. That becomes multiplication. And I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't be in the place that I am. I wouldn't be able to be on the path that I'm on honestly, without the mushroom. Without the mushroom space to allow me to surrender. They allow me to believe because I'm smart. I can figure a lot of things out, and if I can figure a lot of things out, I can think that I know the whole plan.
Oh, that intelligence.
Yeah.
The double-edged sword. That
Yes.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. But if I trust that that intelligence is his tool, his weapon, it's his to wield as he chooses.
Oh, God.
Okay. Now I get to use it. I get to sharpen my pencil and I get to make it just that much better. But now instead of me coming up with the plan and it's all my work, well, now it's his plan, and my work becomes like I get to do what I'm like what this can contrive. But now it's so much easier and it's so much more effective because it's his plan. And that's what the mushroom has given me. It's given me the ability to get out of this. And that's part of what the drive across the country has been, is because I had forgotten that for a while and I tried to control things. And he shared with me exactly how that's been turning out. And so there are several nights in the hotel rooms where I'm on my knees just going, I surrender. It's all you. You tell me. He's like, you're doing good, but we need to tweak because you've been trying to control it. I'm like, got it.
Well, how did you grow up spiritually? Was this talking to God part of your life early on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of my history of my family, and then we'll go into my story. My dad is he knew that he was powerful. I don't think he understood how powerful, but it's the type of thing where he was a musician, and so he worked late at night, also an alcoholic, as many musicians are, and so oftentimes he would drink more than, in a little bit of humility for an alcoholic musician, to be able to know if they've had too much and can't drive home. And so he would go over to the bar phone. He'd look at the phone, wake up my mother at home psychically. Okay? Tell her to call him. She would wake up, pick up the phone, dial the bar he was working at, and she'd be like, you okay? He's like, yeah, can you come get me? Woke her up.
Wow.
That's not once. Okay, that is a pretty common occurrence for my father. My sister, who never knew my father, okay, and I didn't meet her till, 10 or 15 years ago. She was Nashville's #1 psychic and astrologer. Okay, and watching her, I had the pleasure after we met of watching her do her work. She was a channel. She was a medium. I mean, fascinating to watch her work. She could just into it. Okay. So that runs in my family. I'd mentioned that, talking with God was a thing that started when I was young. I was 4 years old when he first came to me and said, I have a purpose for you. Okay. Hang tight. And conversations like that would happen. But let's get to the spiritual side. I didn't have any support. That's the weird thing. So like you see in these things where like Harry Potter or whatever, when they start to hit puberty, things start to happen. Well, things started happening in my life. The ability to move things, the ability to know things, all sorts of weird stuff started happening to me. And I grew up Methodist. And I went to my church and I started asking, like, what do these things mean?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Oh, like, you shouldn't be asking questions like that. I'm like, this is not curiosity, okay? This is because things are happening in my life. And I went to the next person in my church, and finally I went to the lead pastor or minister, and he gave me the same answer. You're not supposed to ask questions like that. And I go, if I'm not supposed to ask questions like this, then I'm in the wrong place. And I went and I started, studying the different religions in the world. Everything from Buddhism to Satanism to magic, and I mean, just let's learn about it. And it gave me a really kind of a universal perspective on religion and spirituality and so on. Like I was 13 or 14 when I read the Tao Te Ching the first time. So it was just, at that age, I'm inundating myself with what are all of these traditions. And there were certain similarities in all of them. And then there were certain things that I'm like, well, I like this from this one and that one from that one. And kind of applied that to my life for a period of time. And then I was in my 30s and there was something going on with one of the organizations that I was involved in. And I had to take an oath regarding Christianity to be able to continue on the path. And I went to a few people and I'm like, hold on. I don't know that I can take that oath. And they explained it to me for that particular ceremony. But what I took away from it was the truth of the matter is I grew up in a Christian world. Okay. Not just church. I grew up in a Christian world. And so for me, again, don't want to take anything away from anything else that I learned or what's out there, but I know those stories best. Okay. So when I talk about God now, I do it not from a Christian perspective, but from a Holy Bible perspective, whether it be the Old Testament or the New Testament. That's the perspective that I talk about it because that's what I grew up in. And so and one of my favorite things is to you ever want to really tweak, if you grew up Christian and you ever want to really tweak your stories, okay, while still being faithful to God, learn about how the Jews, the Hebrews, learn about how they teach the stories. Because they teach the very same stories that we know, but the moral is very different. The lesson in it is very different. And you're like the Tower of Babel. Because man was wicked, God did this horrible thing to us and confused our languages. The way I learned it from Rabbi Daniel Lapin is one of the things that's really important is that God wants us to be individuals. He doesn't want us to be like bricks, okay? Just another brick. It's the same. You're unique. I'm unique. That's how he wants to build the world, is with unique things. There's, if you want to build an altar to God, make it out of stones, not bricks. Because when stones fit together in their perfection, you can't shake them apart. But with bricks you can. And so the whole story behind the Tower of Babel was to remind us of our uniqueness. Okay, that's why you confuse the languages. It wasn't as a punishment. It was because we were trying to, if you look at the whole thing that Nimrod did, not only was he creating bricks, but in effect, he was creating people to be like bricks. Let's look at today's society. You can apply that on a separate term. But when you look at how Christians learn the story of the Tower of Babel, we were bad and were punished, versus no, God restored us to, our righteousness is unique beings for his purpose in creation. So those are the stories that I go to, is the ones from the Holy Bible.
Were you ever able to, surely you must have at this point anyway, but how did you reconcile these paranormal experiences that you were having with a Christian interpretation of the world?
I took the church out of it. Okay.
Well done.
That's why I left the church, because they like, are there other things that we don't understand that are talked about in the Bible? Well, for me, there's a lot I don't understand. Like angels and demons and all these things and you know, the Nephilim and all sorts of stuff that they talk about. Okay? Cherubim. I mean, like, there are things that we don't understand in the Bible. Mm-hmm. Got it.
I just recently learned this. Do you know what the translation of seraphim is?
I've read a few and it doesn't come to mind right now, so share.
Fiery serpent. We were talking about the dragons earlier,
Yes.
and like these are seraphim, holy angels, are actually serpents of fire, or winged serpents is another interpretation, which is interesting when you see that through the iconography throughout the world. Mayans, the Hermes, the Hermetic symbol of this twisted serpents. It's pretty interesting. How do you understand or relate to Jesus, to Christ?
I don't.
Okay.
And I think the best way to really put it is somebody did a little video one time about the Trinity. Okay. And they did it, there was like a veil here. Okay. And they said, well, we just like to, like, let's say that this is God, that this hand is God. Okay. And we'll say, just use 3 fingers. This hand is God. And so what happens is that when we go across that veil, okay, we see 3 different things. But if we look on the backside, okay, it's all the same thing, just showing itself in 3 different ways. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of accept that, but I also accept the concept of an avatar. Mm-hmm. And an avatar is the embodiment of God. Now, the whole concept that God is not of this universe really resonates with me. Okay. Have you ever seen a painting make a painting? No. Right? Okay. There must be a painter to make a painting. Mm-hmm. Okay. Have you ever seen a plant make a plant that was different than itself?
No.
Okay. So there must be something there that creates it that is not of it. Mm-hmm. If God created the universe, he's not of the universe. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so it's like, and I have this whole philosophy and explanation that I call it video game theory. Okay. And this may get off topic a little bit. I warned you about that earlier. But imagine, like, you ever play like the player video games where you're shooting or you're adventuring or whatever, and you see this character running through, okay? Well, in that world, okay, you could say there's a little bit of us in that character, right? We created that character. We gave him his strength and his dexterity and his intelligence and all that. Now, for us, it was just numbers. A 10 for this, an 8 for that, a 9 for that. And we created this character, and he's going to be the bard or the paladin or the thief or whatever, or the monk or whatever. Okay? We created that for whatever purpose we chose. And the really unique thing of it, okay, is that there is a little bit of us in that player, in that character. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, we get to actually control everything that we see that he does, right? Go forward, go backward, left, right, parry, dodge, whatever, steal. We're in control of all of that. I go off on a little side thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. We were talking about free will earlier. Mm-hmm. Okay. And part of that conversation was we have to, like, he gave us free will because it's not that he doesn't want to help us, but he wants to have a relationship with us. Mm. Okay. So now imagine that you're this player in the game. You have the cheat code. You have the book that says how to get through every problem. But that character in that game has the choice to listen to you or not. Okay? Talk about relationships with God. Okay? And kind of where I'm at right now. So God has the cheat code for this entire physical universe that we live in. We have to, when we come to a problem, we have to choose to go to him. Like, did he want us to go to the castle, or did he want us to go into the cave? Because if he's got the book open to the castle, and we choose to go into the cave because the cave is right next to us, well, he's reading from a different script than we are. And we chose to do something other than what he wanted us to do, because we might need to go to the castle first so we can get something that we're going to need in the cave. Okay? And so that's kind of the relationship with God. Like, do we believe that God can solve all our problems? Absolutely. So, but that's kind of one way to look at it. But let's get back now to being of this universe. Okay? So that player, even though we're in there and we can control every aspect of this character, imagine explaining to that character in that video game what his world is like. It's a whole bunch of ones and zeros. And we're watching it on a television screen. Okay? And we're controlling it with controllers. And he's like, well, who created this world? And we go, well, Activision did. Well, what's Activision? Well, Activision is a whole bunch of creators. And if you look at look at Genesis. Is it a single God that created the universe, or plural gods? Elohim, plural.
Let us make man in our image.
Yes. Okay, so here we are. We're trying to explain Activision. We're trying to explain, and then, Activision made your world. Well, what's Activision? What's a bunch of people? It's a bunch of engineers, designers. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, well, I mean, but that's made for the PlayStation. Like, what do you mean? And all of a sudden, this character who has like an 8-bit ability to think, okay, is trying to understand what a PlayStation is when you just told them about Activision. And you can understand how that level of thinking, that level, I'm pretty smart for this, for this species, we'll say. Okay? But in the truth of the matter, I have the intelligence of that 8-bit character in that game. I cannot fathom what it took to create this physical universe that we're in. Okay? And so when we talk about, how do I relate with God or Jesus and so on and so forth, I'm like, Jesus and Buddha and all the other ones, okay, they were human beings, physical beings, okay? And we have to remember that. Physical beings. They weren't, okay, things that were separate. They were physical beings. They were born of this world, which means they came into this world. Now, they may have had a direct link with the Creator, okay? But they were still of this world, okay? Now, maybe God did bring Buddha and Jesus and many others, okay, into this world with a direct link to them. I'm not going to discount that concept of the avatar at all, okay? But when we come and we talk about, how do you reconcile, is Jesus the Creator? Jesus, do I believe that there is God essence in me? Absolutely. Did perhaps Jesus have a stronger connection? Totally. I'll totally believe that. Totally on board with that. And when people talk about Jesus, and Jesus said these things, okay, well, perhaps he had that stronger, perhaps he had that pipeline, that direct pipeline from God to be able to talk to us. I won't discount that. But I'll put that more in the concept of like this, okay, where God is this thing that created us and has the cheat code, knows everything, and we can't see God, but maybe he sat there and said, yeah, I'm going to put a little something here. Yeah, put a little finger here so that you have a more direct access to who I am. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I love it. I mean,
I just cannot get into the Jesus is God. I don't understand that because of the way you're laying it out there. And even lately, like for a while there, particularly as when I was really uncomfortable with the term God, I would use the term universe, right?
Right.
But I heard someone pose the question one day, who made the
Who
universe?
made the universe?
I'm like, well, shit, I can't use that word anymore.
Here's the thing. Use the word that you're comfortable with.
Right,
Okay?
right.
Because
I want to be comfortable with accuracy. And
But use the word you're comfortable with. Okay? Make up a word, whatever.
Yeah.
This universe did not get created by something of this universe.
Right.
The painting did not create a painting.
yeah,
Okay? The painter created the painting. So the creator of this universe, whether it was one god or multiple gods, okay, engineers, whatever you want to call them, at this point in my life, I will, because I used to do the same thing. I used to use universe. At this point, I'm totally comfortable
yeah,
using the word God.
Yeah.
Because God is not of this universe. Got it. He created this. He can't be of this universe. So he's something different that we don't know. Jesus, people want to believe that Jesus was God. I go, well, okay. In their view, in the way they're talking about it, okay, Jesus is one with God. Maybe that direct pipeline. Okay, I can totally accept that. And I'm not going to get down and worship Jesus.
right.
But I talk to God and worship God as much as my ego will allow.
Oh, wow.
Just being real.
Yeah, I love that. I love that as much as my ego will allow. I love that. That's beautifully said. Yeah, my latest epitaph for God is only it knows who it is.
Okay.
It's like yeah, we can say all we want. We have no idea. It's so far beyond we could ever even imagine. And maybe it doesn't even know who it is. I don't,
Right.
It's like, do I even know who I am kind of thing.
Well, you go and paint a painting.
Right.
Okay. What does that painting know of you?
Right.
No.
I mean, yeah. It's beautifully said. I'm still really curious about these paranormal, supernatural experiences.
When I was young
Well, yeah, I mean that you
or now?
spoke to them as you were young, but I'm more interested in how that has evolved. If it has, there is ample evidence to show that psilocybin accentuates ESP and psychic abilities. So I'm at the risk of ruining your reputation. How far are you willing to take that conversation?
I actually keep it really, really simple and really clear. I was 18 or 19, and I started knowing things ahead of time that I didn't want to know. I started, curious. You ask questions. I started asking questions. I started asking questions about people I knew and things like that. And I had access to the universal database, and I started finding out things I didn't really want to know the answer to. And I got down on my knees one day, and I said, take it away. And it was gone. And then I was like my late 30s, maybe my late 40s. It was my late 30s. And I remember there were, things that were just started happening. I was really starting to get control of my emotions. I turned my emotions off for many years. Because growing up, it was an unsafe place for me to be. My household growing up was very unsafe. And at 4 years old, there was a situation where, 4 years old, you're still communicating. At 3 or 4 years old, you're still communicating through emotion. And emotion was an unsafe thing to do in my household. And I all of a sudden understood that. And so at that age, I turned them off. And I was late 30s, maybe 40s. And I was going through this thing, and I'm like, oh, if I can only feel it at a 10, there's something wrong with that. And so I really started dialing in my feelings and going, okay, so how do I feel right now? And for like a few weeks, I had this, every 15 minutes, a little piece of paper with a timer every 15 minutes. And I would literally Like, okay, so how do I feel? I started really getting in connection with my feelings. But when you start getting in connection with your feelings, you realize that feelings are emotions, energy and motion. So that's the motion of my energy in and out of my body. And all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, oh, and I remembered, I'm like, there's more to this. I have access to more. And I was like, God, will you teach me to use it?
Mm-hmm.
If I ask you to turn it back on, will you teach me to use it? And he's like, only if you do it for my goodness. And I'm like, absolutely. And so that's when I started getting back into connecting with him. And so really, instead of like the paranormal stuff getting really weird in my life, okay, it hasn't been. It has been really a lot of stuff just bringing me back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I get off track, when I let my ego, my mind, and if you're an Eckhart Tolle fan, they're one and the same. When I let that stuff run with me, he'll start putting things kind of like psilocybin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, start putting things in my path to bring me back, and I'm like, oh, got it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the past 10 or 15 years, that has really all that been what it has been. It has not been like when it wasn't random weird stuff happening that I'm like, wait, hold on, what is, like, did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been like that.
Mm-hmm.
It has been really much more focused and guided by him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'll just use him. It's not of this world.
Right.
So I just use that terminology.
Right. So, yeah, man, you're a military veteran, business professional. What you're sharing isn't like really apparent in what I think we see. Like when I first met you, I did not in any way, shape, form, or fashion expect you or anticipate you to be so open to these other worlds, to spirituality, metaphysics like you are. And I find myself really curious is it challenging to navigate those two worlds together for you, or is it natural?
I mean, there's a yes and a no. The ego is the biggest obstacle. But the truth, like for me, the way I don't put it out there unless I'm in relation with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is because it's my relationship with God. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
this relationship that I have with God, that's mine. That's between him and I. We talked earlier about, what is religion? It's man getting in between the relationship between man and God. Okay? And so if we remove religion and we go focus on that relationship, well, then I don't have to tell, you'll see all these things, Christian run business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And for me, it's not like, if I'm marketing to people, well, who am I not in a relationship with?
God.
Mm-hmm. Okay? So it's about that. And so when it comes to business, okay, am I following the plan he set? Because if I'm following the plan he set, then I can do business. And the people who come into my life, we can have conversations.
Can you talk that out a little more for folks? I'm not sure everyone is able to make the connection between God and business. At least in the worlds that I've been in, there is you hear a lot of people down talking capitalism. You hear a lot of people, money is the root of all evil.
No.
And you have been such a powerful re-educator for me in
Okay.
this process. And I'd love for you to kind of share your philosophy of this intersect of spirituality and business.
Perfect. Let's start off with that phrase, okay, and capitalism. Mm-hmm. The phrase, money is the root of all evil. That is not the phrase.
Oh, right.
Okay, that is the phrase that people who hate God will use.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm.
Because the phrase is actually, the love of money is the root of all evil. What is the first commandment?
Love God above all else.
I am the Lord your God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. When we go after money, the love of money, what do we place before God?
Money.
Right. Okay. In capitalism, and let's be honest, in capitalism, is there the inherent risk, going back to free choice, is there the inherent risk of people foregoing their relationship with God?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's be honest about capitalism in that way. There absolutely is. But it comes back to our will, our free choice. God gave us the choice to choose to be with him or not. He wants to have a relationship with each and every one of us. And we must make that choice. And in capitalism, during the finance class, we talked about, does God want you to be rich or poor? Okay. Well, let's see here. How many grains of sand did he make? Did he make only 3 grains of sand? Did he make only 3 drops of water? Okay. Did he only put 3, molecules of oxygen in our atmosphere? Did he only give a tree 3 leaves? Did he only make 3 trees? No. We can't count any of these things because they are so abundant. And that's what he wants for us. That's what, he will bless us. That's why capitalism is the way it is. You look at the other systems, the other competing system right now is communism. Who's in control in communism? Is it can God play a role in communism?
No.
Maybe, only if the leader,
Well, right.
okay, is religious. But what is the first rule of communism? To abolish all religion.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like if you read Marx, if you read them, one of the first rules, abolish all religion. Why? Because there can be nothing higher than the state. And if there can be nothing higher than the state, then there is no God, and man now becomes in the role of God. You can have this because this bureaucrat said you can have it. You can't have that because either we won't allow it to be created, or the bureaucrat said you can't have it. Man is in charge of everything. Whereas when you look at the free market, we're constantly creating new things. Buy it, don't buy it, doesn't matter. And all of a sudden, here we go. Now we have, just like that whole free will thing that he gave us, we have the free will to be with him or not. The only true spiritual system, okay, is capitalism. There's an inherent evil in it, though, because it can be corrupted by evil. And that's one of the things that everyone likes to point out. They like to point out the evil in capitalism. There is an inherent evil. When you get people who value money more than God, they place money, okay, as their God. Okay, the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay? I am the Lord your God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The love of money is the root of all evil. So there is the inherent risk. Absolutely. But if we follow God, does God want us to be abundant? Absolutely. Like there is no purpose that God has for you if you have absolutely no resources. How can, I can't give away something I don't have. Okay? I can't truly give if I don't have an abundance of something. Okay? Because if I don't have an abundance and I want to give it to you, well, now I've got to weigh it. I'd be like, well, maybe I can do that. How will I do without that? Or I've got to be like, well, I can give that to you, but you need to give me something in return But if I've got 100 gazillion grains of sand, and you're like, Greg, could I get some grains of sand? I'm like, how many do you want? Here you go. I can truly and freely give, and that's the way God wants us to live our lives. Okay? So he wants us to be in abundance, but we have to choose to live in accordance to his laws. Fortunately, a lot of those money laws are written down in these books, okay, that are in the Holy Bible. Jesus spoke more about money and wealth, okay, than he did about heaven and hell combined.
Really? In a positive, negative, neutral sense, or
just about the laws of it. You know, it is. He like, you have to want to be in relation with God. Okay? If you choose not to be in relation with God, well, then you run the risk. You might still become rich, but you won't have peace. Okay? You won't have all the other wonderful benefits that come with that relationship and the blessings he can give you. Because he can give you money, but he can also, like, the most important thing in the world is not money.
Right.
The most important thing are the rest of, like, the family, the relationships, all of that. Okay? And if you can't be an asset to support your family, whether that is your spouse and your kids, or whether that is your what we call in Hawaii the Hanai family, okay, just the people you love. Okay. If you can't support them, you can't do that. And I don't necessarily mean with money, but there's wealth of money, there's wealth of time, there's wealth of energy. I mean, there are numerous types of wealth out there. If you don't have an abundance of those things, you can't freely give anything.
I'm just thinking about all those mushrooms I found this spring. I've been giving away mushrooms like crazy.
You get it?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I had this realization the other day, or this, I don't know if it's a realization, it's just kind of a place of understanding where I thought to myself in the shower, God is not the source of abundance. God is abundance. That, and like, just like, I mean, even this conversation as we're talking about God is separate from the universe, and you see, I initially go to stars, but like once someone was saying on Sunday service today, like 30 trillion cells in the human body, something like that. And there's two of us sitting here. There's 60 trillion cells between the two of us. And where did that come from? From abundance itself, manifest in myriad, endless forms.
Let's get even better. Let's get into the level of energy and the focus of energy that's necessary. Okay? And this comes from Joe Dispenza. But in order for there to be a cell, there have to be a whole bunch of atoms that are energetically aligned to form that cell to do a purpose. And then to form an organ, we have to take a whole bunch of cells who are energetically aligned to fulfill a purpose to create that organ. And then that organ, in order to have a system in our body, okay, we now need to have a whole bunch of organs that are energetically aligned, okay, and it goes all the way, like, how much energy is focused in this thing right here?
Wow.
It's not just like energy randomly scattered throughout the universe. This right here is a multifold of focused energy. And God created that focused energy and then said, free will.
Can we get deep on free will here? I wonder, this has been an ongoing exploration of mine really since about 10 years into the mushroom. It is an outcome of observing so many ceremonies and seeing the people who come together in ceremony space and the interactions, the interplay between two or more clearly indicates that there was a wisdom and intelligence that brought them together. And all of those people thought they were making the choice to get on the plane or do all the things that they did.
Right.
And so I'm wondering how do you understand where free will begins and where it ends within the human experience? Does that make sense?
Let me share how I heard that, and then correct me. Okay? Because we, as this focused set of energy, have the ability to have free will, and it, according to there's this wonderful little book out there called Little Gods. Okay. And it's got this great, it's a cute little, like, it's about gods and creation. And it talks about there's a couple of dying gods. They only have like one person or a couple people who still know who they are and still believe in them and still worship them.
Okay.
And So it's about their battle and their fight, okay, for existence.
Okay.
But they're gods, and the fewer people who believe in them and love them, the fewer influence the smaller influence they have in this world. So it's a really like thought-provoking book. And so I kind of look at that in the concept of, well, why would God create this universe and then tell us that he wants us to love him? Okay. Why were we created? Why were we given free will? Because he could create things that would worship him. But if it's, like I had said earlier, you can't legislate righteousness. Okay. So what good would that do? What kind of energy?
Right.
Energy and motion. What type of energy, okay, could those slaves, could those robots, if you will, what kind of energy could they create in loving a God if they were mandated to worship it?
Nil.
No. Okay. We have all this energy, all of our loves, all of our hates, all these things are programmed into us, okay, from our youth, throughout our lives, okay? So when we love God, we can love with a lot of energy. We can, the only thing he wants a relationship with us. He wants us to love him and he wants to love us, okay? Maybe there's something out there. Maybe that the concepts in that book, Little Gods, okay, where he's like, oh yeah, this energy, and when you look at the whole money aspect of it, money is, once again, it's a resource, it's just an energy. But when you follow God's will for the money thing, he doesn't talk about addition, he talks about multiplication. It's not about, hey, we're going to get this and it's going to go 1 foot after. No, it's like when you get in line, and like he trusts you, and he like, you've proven yourself with the small things. He pours it on you. You get a waterfall of abundance. Okay? He multiplies it. Well, if we're giving him that energy, maybe it's the same thing. Maybe if we just sat there and we were just these things that did the ceremony and said, okay, Hail Mary, full of grace, and without any energy, okay, then maybe he doesn't get any power. We don't believe strongly enough and faithfully enough. Okay? But if we go through a life crisis and we turn to God and we are crying, we are on our knees, or maybe we're the opposite, maybe we are grateful and jubilant and we are on our knees just praising him or dancing and singing and what does he want when he's done something good for you? He wants you to sing and dance in his joy, in his name. Okay? Maybe that gives him a whole lot more power to be able to be a god or whatever, okay, than if we just did the routine. And I don't know the answer, okay, but that's my take on it. Is, okay, if he's going to bless my life with all these things and emotions, and I love the wonderful emotions that he give me, and I will go through and I'm a believer that this whole universe, kind of like going back to video game theory, okay, that little bit of God that's in me, okay, we chose, why do people play video games at night? Because they enjoy them, okay, maybe in the movie Avatar, okay, where they get in these skin suits and then go and do all this other stuff in that world. Well, maybe this body is one of those avatars, okay? And there is a God form of whatever playing the Earth game right now. And tasting all the things I taste, okay? Hearing the music that makes me want to dance. And so we'll go through the 5 senses, but then we'll also go through the emotions. Okay. I don't care whether you're falling in love with a book or a movie or a person or an animal. Being in love, even if it's for a few moments, Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Okay, I was thinking the other day about how, like, when I greet a dog, okay, I just show the dog so much love, and there's a part of me that is just in that moment with that animal, and I'm like, yeah, that's important. Okay, and maybe that thing that's out there, that God, whatever, okay, that one who's playing this game right now, okay, that has the cheat code and communicate with me if I'll drop my ego and listen, okay, maybe they get to experience this just like I do, and so how, so in that sense, this whole universe was created for our enjoyment. If there's a little bit of God in us, it was created for our enjoyment, for us to come here, be a part of this universe, and enjoy. The sights, the sounds, the tastes, the flavor, the smells, everything. And enjoyment doesn't always mean that you like it, okay? But it's to experience it. Heartbreak, okay, that can be devastating. But if we take a little bit out of that and go, wow, that was an intense experience. What can I learn from that? Like, well, what do I want to do with that? Okay. We learn that, like, okay, maybe I do want to fall in love again. Maybe, and a big part of that comes from when my mom died. When my mom died, it was an emotional roller coaster, or emotional train wreck. And I remember sitting there and having a conversation with God, and as I'm not prone to panic attacks, but after my mom died, I started having them. And I remember during one of them, I'm sitting there and I am on my way to the beach to go surfing, and just in the middle of just driving down the street, I'm not able to breathe and tears are streaming down my face, and I just, and the pit of my stomach is just all knotted up, and I'm like, God, why does this hurt so much? And he gave me the most powerful answer that changed everything for me. Because it meant so much. Oh. And that's about the time that I really started focusing on my emotions again. Was because I'm having these powerful moments. Like, before that, I couldn't feel a 5 on the emotional scale. I couldn't feel a 3 or a 4. Okay? I could feel a 10, and it just frustrated me because it was there. Okay? And that's where I was at. God was knotting me up inside, making it so I couldn't breathe, because it was important for me to pay attention, because that is part of living. All right, I've talked for quite a bit. The question was about free will. Did I answer the question, or do we want to come back to it?
Well, it sounded like you were saying that our free will is a choice to love or not love God, and that everything else is just kind of circumstances that point us in the direction of that choice. Is that fair? Or
There's a yes and a no to that, because we have free will to choose whatever we want and whatever we don't want. Okay? I choose to have sweet coffee, not bitter coffee. Okay? That's a choice. I get to make that. Okay? God gives us that choice. I had a choice to pay attention to my emotions or not. Okay? Since God gave me that, has my life been richer or poorer since I started paying attention to my emotions?
richer, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because now I can connect with people on a very different level. Now I can experience things that I never could experience before, or I would not allow myself to experience before. Okay, so all of that, like that free will, he wants to share all of this. Like, he wants us to open up, and like, if we do what he says, we follow him, he will bless us in ways we could not imagine. And I've shared, throughout the years, I've shared several, aspects of that in my life, where like, once I just let go, like, God, show me what you want, he blessed me in ways that couldn't have even imagined. Okay, so had I designed the perfect answer, it would have been paled in comparison to what he had for me. But that's what he wants. Like, he wants to give us everything. Okay? Be in relation with me. I put you on planet for a purpose. Do the purpose.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to finish that. And he will bless us in ways we could never have imagined. Okay? And that's not like, a lot of people just focus on financially, but like, when you really understand what his purpose is and what he wants for us, finances become the least of the blessings he's going to give us. Like, yeah, you're going to get finances, okay? Or you're going to get some way where finances are not an issue for you. But he's going to bless you in so many other ways. You know, whether it's the taste of foods or the relationships or the feelings or whatever, the experiences, you're going to be blessed in ways that are what this universe, this whole physical reality that we're experiencing right now, he's going to bless us in ways where that's what this whole reality was created for us to experience and for us to enjoy. And not all of it are we going to like. Okay, I like every now and then I get a black coffee. Okay, not my favorite thing, but if I'm sitting there enjoying company and that's what's available, then the black coffee doesn't matter. The company does. And the company is so, in those situations, the company is usually so much more important, okay, than the bitterness from the drink.
It sweetens the drink.
Yeah, exactly. So the blessings, like when people focus on money, I get that. But like literally when we just surrender, like, yes, we're going to be blessed with money. That's going to be the small, like, that becomes insignificant to the rest of what he has to offer.
Well, and, this is something that has been an ongoing experiential understanding for me, is that you get the material things that you want, and that happiness is fleeting. It's like,
yes,
you have the nicest car you want, and 3 days later, it's like you're driving around in anything else. You know? And so that satisfaction, I'm finding more and more, it really comes from appreciation itself. It doesn't matter what I'm grateful for. It doesn't matter. It's just the pure gratitude, appreciation to this experience for all of its facets, even the heartbreak. Heartbreak is one of the most, so painful, but like, it's so rich.
Yes.
So full of experience.
Tell me you're going through that and you're not alive.
Right.
Tell me there's not energy flowing through you.
That's how 100%. 100%. Gosh. Oh, there's so much I would love to talk about. I for some reason I feel really compelled to ask you this, and audience, those of you who are listening. Greg was here at this time. We had to do a recording because he was here. So is the family. If you're hearing background noise, that's just, something to be grateful for.
Yes.
But I'm curious, like, the perspective that you have from, the Methodist upbringing, the this kind of spiritualism that you found yourself exploring, the intellectual, material, business, and now coming into the mushrooms kind of later in your life experience, right? Or coming back to them later in your life experience. How do you imagine this, and not just Psanctuary, but this reintegration of specifically psilocybin? And there's a lot we could say about other psychedelics, but psilocybin mushrooms, there is something, I think we agree, very unique about their nature. And I'm curious how you envision this reawakening impacting religion and spirituality
in our culture?
Okay, so, I mean, that's a loaded question.
It's a big question, no doubt.
And I do have opinions on it. Let's start off with religion. Religion is going to hate this movement. Okay? Religion is about man getting in between the relationship between man and God. And what do the mushrooms do?
Remove the man.
Remove the man. Okay? And so organized religion, I think, is not going to be pleased. Okay? They will, as far as religion is, organized religion, they'll do what they can to do away with it. But at the same time, we have such a science-based society that there's not a lot that they can do. But the other aspects of spirituality and growth and everything else that's with that, my personal beliefs, this up here, is that, well, number one, we look at society, we're 100% clear. Our society is broken. Our community is broken. We do not have a community anymore.
Yes.
Now, when's the last time you saw more than 2 generations living in the same house together?
Right. Not American citizens, yeah.
Right. And it was very common for up to 5 generations to be living in a single house. Okay. Other cultures still do that.
When did that stop in the States?
I don't know exactly when it stopped, but my guess would be with the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
Okay. And the Industrial Revolution, you have people
people were moving from the farms to the cities and
Right.
breaking up. Yeah.
And so you got the young people, the young, strong ones, moving into the cities, okay? And now they're earning barely enough to pay rent and buy a loaf of bread. Now, the bread was different bread than it is today. So it's much better for you. You could actually live on that bread. But it's a very, very different world. And so you get, oh, well, now you've got these 2 people, they've shacked up because it's cheaper on rent. And they start having kids because that's just natural. But they're now in a non-natural environment. Okay? But that became the norm. And I don't even know how far, you look at other cultures and societies around the world, and they have, the typical, you get outside of the first world. The first world has cities, okay? And throughout history, there have been cities. But you look at the community size, and the typical community size, the typical tribe size, is between 40 and 400 people. Okay? And if you go through and you look at the societal job roles, primitive society, there's about 250 of them.
Okay.
It's really funny that there's 250 job roles for a tribe, and 250 is about what our mind can handle for understanding all the relationships and the pecking order and everything. Okay? That is really our size. So at that point in time, you didn't have, it wasn't like the nuclear family and mom and dad. You had 250 people living together. Okay? That was the community. They shared common language, common spiritual beliefs, common foods. I mean, you go a few miles away and you had another community, 250 people. Might not speak the same language, and it's very different. So when we get to, that is a much more natural environment to live in. Okay? And we have, our family system in the United States is broken. And so I see a whole bunch of things converging here that I hope happen. Part of it being that when we look at, because we are so small, our community is so small.
Sanctuary mean, or what?
Just the people, not just Sanctuary, but the whole idea that we're going to have a religion around mushrooms.
Okay.
Okay.
Just anyone who views mushrooms as a spiritual practice, that
Yes.
can be okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
We are super small. Okay. And so what I hope happens, and I would love to see this happen, it's like, I know that we've started planting some seeds. It hasn't come to fruition yet, but we started planting some seeds. But I want to see a sanctuary community or a mushroom community start sprouting up in Honolulu and Phoenix and New York and Seattle and wherever else. Okay, Ohio, wherever else we can do it. Because I think that the spiritual aspect of this is where we have the capability to really connect people. And that's what I'm hoping happens. I don't know what will happen. We're still kind of on the outskirts. We've got, because there's so much going on in that realm, drugs themselves are becoming much more legal. Okay. So there's competition in that sense as well, because, well, I don't have to do, mushrooms, but it's like, but we're talking a spiritual, if we can really focus on a spiritual reckoning, I think that we have the ability to really create something that will change, will change the communities, will change the planet, the energy of the planet. And that's what I'm hoping, because I really do believe that, like, not only is our society and our community broken, okay, but our churches are broken. And I see a lot of these new churches that are coming up, and I have great hope for them, but at the same time, it's still a religion. Okay. And my favorite thing about church and about religion is the community that it creates, because we really are a relational species meant to live, work, and be around other people.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm real big on that aspect. And I think that the direct connection with God that mushrooms allow us, I hope it continues to grow, because it's not for everyone, though.
For sure.
And that's one of the things that I'm very clear on, because everybody's in their own place and their own path, doing their own thing, and free will. Once again, let's let people do other things. Okay. And so we're going to do that. The people who are in this space, okay, can do this. And that's one of the things that you and I have talked about: ceremonies, rites of passage type ceremonies for the membership. And I think that once we get into a place where we have the ability to really, not just this loose community, but we are a part of people's life changes. Okay. Right now we've got the doula program, which is great. And that's the end. Okay.
We're working our way backwards.
So, but maybe we'll come up with something like a rite of passage for people who are going into manhood.
We've been talking about eldership as the next one.
Okay.
Right.
And then there, marriage, and then having a child, and in these different phases of life, because, somebody gave me kind of the like football version of life. Okay. And where football is like 15 minutes for every quarter. Okay. Our life is 20 years. The first 20 years is you're being taken care of and learning. You're learning societal rules and things like that. Well, the next 20 years, okay, you are learning world skills. Okay. And so you're going out, you're getting a job, you're learning skills for the job market, things like that. You are getting married, having your own kids, and you're in that portion. Okay. And I never could understand why Kabbalah was never taught before somebody was 40 years old. Now I understand. The next portion, okay, is you're still working, but now you take on the role of teacher as well. Okay. Because your kids would be about 20 years old, going out, having their own kids. Okay. And so here we are during the third quarter, And now your job, like you may still be working and doing the, but now it's time to, I'm going to teach somebody who's coming into the job market now and how to do it. Okay. I get to be, the elder, the teacher. And then we get to the last quarter. Okay. And the last quarter is along the lines of, well, now our health starts not being as good. And so those people take care of, the very young ones. While the 20, 30-year-olds are out working and learning their job skills. Well, these people are now taking care of these people, and they're all kind of shitting all over themselves together. Okay. And so, and I hope that wasn't too crass of humor for people.
No,
so, but that is, and I think like kind of those changes, when we can really start implementing and creating something special for these changes in life. So we've got those ones because, yeah, like once you get to a point where you're like, and I know like for me, we've talked about real estate cycles. Once this real estate cycle is done, I will probably not, be focusing on the next real estate cycle. Just, I'm at that age where I'm like, the most I'm going to do at the next cycle is teach somebody what I know. I hope to find somebody this cycle who wants to learn so I can teach them, and that for the rest of my life, they can just manage all of it. Okay. And the next cycle, they can take advantage of it and just call me and be like, hey, I got this thing. I want to do this. Is that the right thing? But that's me getting to the next stage. And I think that once we start integrating and creating that in Psanctuary, where it becomes like baptism, it becomes a part of your life. It becomes an important part of it. Okay, where, hey, you're going through this part of your life right now. Here is a ceremony, a celebration, etc. And, and we talk about rites of passage. There are three, like when we study rites of passage, and you really look at, there's three phases to it, and a lot of people forget. They don't understand what they mean. So the first one is, for a rite of passage, you're removed out of society, out of your role in society for a time being, while you go through the rite. The second part is you learn your new role. This is why these ceremonies are so important. We have very few of these in society today at all, but you learn your new role. Okay, you may not be perfect at it, but you learn the role. Think about the hunter. He's taught how to hunt at this period in his life. Okay, and he's got to go prove himself by making his first kill. Okay, or surviving the wolf, or whatever it is. Okay, but you're taught how, like for me, when God sat there and told me that I need to change, he's like, you don't have the physical energy to do what you used to do, and I don't. I used to do a lot of things that I did based on anger. Okay, I'm burned up. That anger burned me. I don't have that in me anymore. And so God has shown me, he's like, now you want to learn to do things differently? I'm like, totally.
Yes, please.
Totally. And he's like, pray before you do anything. I don't even feel it anymore when I do something. If I pray before I go do something, it doesn't feel like I exerted any energy. Okay, but that's a skill that somebody needs to learn at some point in their life. Okay, and so that's part of my conversation with him is, he's like, this is what you need to do. I'm like, oh, okay. So before I do something, I pray, everything just seems to flow. I'm not, when I do things through anger, it feels like I'm holding my breath the whole time. And sometimes I work on projects really hard for months. Okay. And I used to, when I would be done with a big project, be gone for a few months because I needed to recuperate because it felt like I was holding my breath the whole time. And so, but that's part of the whole learning for this next phase. Okay. And then the last part, so we've got the first part is you're removed out of your role. Second part is you learn your new role. The third part, which is super, super important, okay, is you are reintroduced to society at your new level, at your new role. So let's take a look at two really good examples of this.
Wow.
Okay. Military boot camp. Okay. You leave your life. You go away. Okay. And in my case, I went to, Marine Corps Recruit Depot. And I was there and at the range. I was there for 3 months. Okay. Where I was taught, second part, I was taught to be a Marine. Okay. And then the third part, I was reintroduced to society because up until this time, I wasn't a Marine. I was taught how to be a Marine, but I wasn't a Marine until I was reintroduced to society as a United States Marine. Okay. You say that through any of the three branches. They're removed. The other one is going away to college. Okay. You leave home. You go somewhere 4 years to learn to be an accountant, a computer programmer, doc, whatever. And then you're reintroduced to society upon your graduation. And I think that if we incorporate, okay, this level of rite of passage into, and you look, you can find these things in many religions. They've incorporated a lot of them. But I think that if we can incorporate that into Sanctuary, then we really do have the ability to change and be of value, not just because of the psilocybin, but we really do have the ability to change and be of value to people's lives.
The impact.
Yes.
Yeah. You're kind of hitting me with my own experience here. Like I was taken from my culture and community and spent, I had been leading up to it. I had been working with mushrooms, but then like being taken from my community and going into Jamaica and for 7 years learning how to do this work and then coming back into my own world now. It's interesting to just kind of observe that process. And as we talked earlier, recognizing more that whatever was communicating with me then is the same thing that's communicating with me now. And what you said about conventional churches not accepting the mushroom, it's interesting. I don't know if you know, there was last week or 2 weeks ago, they finally published the study of the religious leaders that took psilocybin. It was a big deal. They said it was one of the top 5 experiences in their life, and how there are a growing number of Christian, particularly, and a few Jewish rabbis, Christian pastors and Jewish rabbis who are looking to incorporate psilocybin into their services and their practices. And I'm in communication with a number of those individuals, and I fully respect that work and appreciate it. And at the same time, as you say that, I'm thinking to myself, they don't know that that's going to be the end of their religion. Like there's this, like, okay, we can adopt psilocybin into our Christian faith, but they're not aware that once the congregation starts consuming psilocybin on any kind of scale, that it's going to reveal that they don't need the priest. They don't need the middleman. And so it may not completely do away with the religions, so to speak, but it will drastically reform them, I suspect.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of the things. There's just certain things that are timeless institutions because they've learned how to adapt. And I don't say adapt in a positive way here.
No.
Okay, it's like General Motors. Okay, anybody who had a idea for a car that was anything better than General Motors did one of two things. They either sabotaged them or bought them. When they bought them, they shelved all the good ideas.
Really?
Okay, yeah. The Catholic Church is the same way. Okay, you look at 2,000 years of this, and the most valuable thing that that the Catholic Church has really is their vaults.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they've taken, okay, all the bits of knowledge and beliefs and like they have come in contact with psilocybin religions,
Certainly.
okay, and done away with them.
Certainly.
And so, like, I would love to sit there and think that we're going to do away with them, but I also know their resiliency and their ability to be like, oh yeah, here's a really great idea. Let's just adopt it and get everybody, all of them into our church because we're good. And then, 50, 75 years, nope, that's all bad. We're not doing that anymore.
No, I've thought about that a fair amount. Guess we'll just let it unfold. But yeah, it's like they absolutely, it was known, not only was it encountered and known of these sacred mushroom religions or spiritual practices, communions, but there is ample evidence that Jesus himself was connected with said practice.
Yes, I'm with you.
And then it's been buried long enough that we forgot. Now we're starting to get a little bit of a trickle of some of the information, particularly in artwork that's made it through the years, where you can see paintings and frescoes from 1,000 years ago that show Jesus with mushrooms. And so like we forgot it long enough that now it can get introduced and we're like, oh my gosh, we're remembering who we are until 50 or 100 years from now, where it's like, I related this to, I found this so interesting when I found this out. In China, Qigong, when it was in the 80s, it was understood to be so powerful of positively impacting health and offsetting medical expenses that the government initiated this huge Qigong program, right? And everybody started doing Qigong and the health improved nationally. And then people started to develop psychic abilities because as you get in touch with your energy, then you get... And then guess what they did? They outlawed it again because people became too powerful. And I don't know if there's any way that we can prevent that with mushrooms, but I don't see how it could go any other way. And I could be very wrong about that, and I hope that I am wrong about that. But when you look at what has historically happened, either we need to be aware and plant our flag firmly in the ground over the next few years, or it's very likely that we're going to be subject to similar results. So it's sure is an interesting place to be in with all of this here.
Truly, truly fascinating. And we can play our part for a time.
Yeah, that's the ego wanting to be there forever. As I start to think about my future in this, and who knows, but it's certainly like my ego wants to see this continue on, but and well, is that just ego? Ultimately, my spirit wants it to be whatever is God's will. Whatever is to happen is to happen. But this is that dance between free will and kind of divine orchestration. And I don't know how I relate to this, especially when I start, as I study a fair amount of science and modern physics, and this possibility of possibilities and all these different dimensions and timelines that we can tap into, and where is free will and all that, or where
Okay, so why do we have free will? So that we can do what? Choose to love who?
Love God is how.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to the parable of the talents.
Okay.
Great word. We understand a talent to be a portion of silver.
Okay.
Okay. But let's look at the word talent. Mm-hmm. Okay. For the servant who buried the talents, what was said about him?
He was a worthless.
Yes.
Bad guy.
Okay. He was evil.
Bad. Oh yeah.
Okay. Rebuked.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So the other ones actually used the talents. They didn't hide the talents. Think about your talents, Eric.
I've been
Okay.
I've been hiding them here lately.
We've had that conversation, and we'll continue to. Okay? So if we hide our talents, the things that God gave us to use, we don't use them for His purpose to multiply them, we are considered evil. However, okay, if we get in line with His will and we use the talents to multiply them for His will, okay, then He will reward us and more will be given to us. So the question is, okay, so here's the church. You want the church to be a certain way. Let's ask this. What are your talents within the church? What are the core components that Eric can do and nobody else can do? Because there's a lot of stuff that we do in our organizations that other people could do. Okay, and I'm as guilty about this as anyone else. So what are the core things that you can do that nobody else can do? And then go, God, okay, what do you want for the church? Okay, and these are my talents that I can contribute to your building, your building of the church, your building of this edifice called the church. How do my talents fit in with your plan? Okay, and then you get to spend your talents, you get to use them, you get to grow them, you get to expand your talents. Okay, and build something in His name. And it's tough though, because we have to be humble enough to get out of here and go, okay, so I'm going to do something. What do you want me to do? I want to get involved and I want to be in this game and I want to play this game and I want to play this game with all of my heart.
Oh my goodness.
Okay? What do you want me to do? Because I'm smart enough to come up with my own game. And that's where the free will is the hard part. He made us smart enough to be able to come up with an entire plan and execute on it. Are we willing to be humble enough to surrender? God, what do you want? What do you, like, I can do all of this stuff. What do you want me to do? Here's what I can contribute to your plan. He's like, well, go this direction. And sometimes He only tells you, like, what the next step is. He may not even tell you, like, for most of my life. Okay? He didn't tell me what I was, like, the end goal was, because for most of my life it was so that I could learn and I could become a better form for what He needed. Okay? So He wasn't sitting there telling me, you have to go do this so you can become better. And that's really, like, that's where, like, humility comes in, because sometimes He's not going to tell us what the end goal is. He's going to say, go down this path. And sometimes we go lovingly and willingly, and sometimes we go kicking and screaming. But if we do it out of love for Him and faith that He is guiding us towards what He has for us, there's a lot of surrender in there.
Well, I just am trusting that the audience is able to take this and apply this to their lives. That's why I put myself on the chopping block. No, seriously, I mean, this is a really, I didn't intend this to come out as a teaching for me, but that's what I feel so privileged in the position that I'm in. You know, like, this is one of the conversations around space holding. It's like there's all this talk about how much, whether or not, should people get paid to hold space in ceremonies. And I'm not here to weigh in on whether or not they should. I think there's ethical ways to evaluate that. And one of the considerations that I always take into that conversation is that as a person holding space for others, whether I consume the mushroom or not during that ceremony, I am receiving an enormous amount of healing and blessing in my life just for being in that space. And so it is such an enormous privilege to get to know people like yourself and so many others who have helped
me become a better version of myself. And you really have, Greg. I mean, it's incredible to me that someone who is like, this is the first time we've met in person. This is about 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, whatever it is. And you've just had such an impact on my life that I hope that you can just know that to an extent. And can we use that to bridge a little bit into the conversation around, like, I don't want to just frame this, but in short, just the potential within virtual or long distance community. You know, there are a lot of folks. I'm not doing this to try to sell Psanctuary in any way. I'm doing this, I want to highlight this because I think we often underestimate our resources that we have available. Mm-hmm. And we can very easily, in the midst of a great many number of people, feel very alone because those people around us don't have a similar perspective or practice, ideology, etc. And there's obviously places where we have different perspectives on things, but there are some really important places where they line up, which is, I think, what has continued to facilitate this growing relationship that we have across, you know, how many miles is it to Hawaii?
From here, probably close to 5,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was going to guess like 3. So there we go. 5,000 miles. And
it's 3,000 to Phoenix.
Okay. Wow. So I'm really curious for you, as sounds like you don't have a mushroom community in Hawaii.
There's a yes and a no.
Okay.
So there is a personal development community that I am in touch with, friends with, and we've all done, like many of us have done ayahuasca together.
Okay.
Which has been, I mean, doing ayahuasca with a bunch of people who you already have a close relationship with, even if you don't see each other often, mm-hmm. but like when you do, like you're touching each other's souls, mm-hmm. is a fabulous thing. Mm-hmm. And so there are people who, and I'm one of the worst at reaching out. You know, I'm an introvert, so kind of leave me alone and I do my thing. And so for those people who know me, feel free to reach out. That's like really hard for me to say, but I'm putting it out there. That's why, like, your call, you know, a couple weeks ago really meant a lot to me. But there are people who want to do this. You know, they're like, Greg, when's the next time you're going hiking? Mm-hmm. And so it is, I have that blessing to be able to go and be a part of that. But one of the things that's really important for me about Psanctuary itself is, for me, it's a spiritual aspect. Like everybody's kind of on their own journey, and that's like, you know, you look at like any organization as it starts to grow, it starts to kind of fraction off, and that doesn't need to be a bad thing. What it is we create space for those new groups. Okay, and Psanctuary is really good about doing that, whether it be a men's group or, you know, like a sacred sexuality group or a whatever it is. Okay, whatever your thing is, do you, like, what people do you want to go through life with? Okay, do you want to go through people who don't know about spirituality, who don't know, they're not having conversations about sacred resources, you know, and money and everything else, and or do you want to go through life with, you know, with people who don't understand where your spiritual contact is? Okay, if you want those things, well, Psanctuary can offer that. One of the hardest things in life is to, like, go through life alone.
Yes.
Have an experience like a mushroom experience and not be able to talk about it with anybody.
Right.
Okay. That is, even if the only thing that you want to say about it is, wow, I had an amazing experience. I just need to share that with somebody who understands that mushrooms can be amazing. Okay. even that's very important. And I think that it's about community. If you don't have people that you can do it with, one of the best things about Sanctuary is that we do have the umbrella of religious protections with the church. Okay. But being connected when I want to connect with somebody and be like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about sacred resources and energy flow, or let's talk about okay, so I'm going through this ceremony this weekend, and I want to touch base on like integration, some of the integration practices, because I'm going through a time in life, and I want to be able, like, I know that I'm going to get messages, whether they're in the ceremony or the following weeks after. I know that there are going to be answers that are going to come. Okay, what are some of the best ways to record and be able to integrate those into my life? There's a community here where I can do that. Okay, and I love that. And I think that as you're starting to build up more and more communities, and as Sanctuary grows and you get these smaller communities of 10 people who are like, this is what we want to talk about. Great. Okay. I think that's going to be a huge part of it, whether it's online or not. I mean, when we were doing the finance one and we were going through the book study, it was, like, one of the reasons why I was very willing to do that. Okay. It's not because I hadn't read the books before. Okay. Especially like when you get to like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I can't tell you how many times I've read that book.
50 times.
Okay. Right. But the big thing is to, number one, revisit it. But number two, have people to talk about it with. When we talk about these things with people who are going through the same thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, so this is we're doing this through a spiritual lens. I can't go down to like the local bar and have those conversations with people and have them look at me like I'm normal.
Right.
They're gonna be like, this dude's drunk. I'm like, I've had soda, And so that's one of the things that I think is wonderful about Sanctuary, is because it really does, like, if you're looking to grow in your spirituality, you're looking to grow in what this is, Sanctuary offers that. And whether it's on a Zoom call or whatever voice channel is going on, it's still important, because one of the most important things that we have as human beings, being a relational species, is our relationships. And a lot of people will look at it and be like, you can't build that over Zoom. You can put whatever limitations you want on it.
Yes.
Okay. And the opportunity is still there. And it might not look like relationships you've had elsewhere. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. When we compare, we're losing the value of what it is that's right in front of us if we're comparing it against something else. And everything everything has to grow out of something. And so when there are so many people who are still in isolation with this practice. And I've already seen like some amazing connections where, like, say Debbie, for instance, in Indianapolis, she was a member of Sanctuary for a couple of years, and she's just doing like the Zoom things and would come down here every now and then for a thing. And she's like, I'm like kind of lonely by myself in all this. And then she goes to a thing and she meets somebody who's a member of Sanctuary up in Indianapolis. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're also a member of Sanctuary. And they live down the street from each other.
How perfect.
And it's like, if we will, and again, this is not to sell Sanctuary, this is to sell us following our inspiration, following our intuition, and also sticking a thing through. Like, there is something very powerful when whatever, not even necessarily commitment, but whatever process we begin to engage ourselves in, it's very common, I think, particularly in this world where everything's convenience-based, everything's disposable. It's like, it didn't work, piano didn't work, I'll start playing trumpet. That didn't work, I'll played piano for a week, I don't like that. Played soccer for a week, I know that's not for me. Like, you don't know. And so to
to really put yourself into a practice, a community where you invest some real time into it. You stick with the process and see, okay, if I get through this discomfort, what might I find on the other side? So if I sit through another Zoom, like today, Sunday service, I was leading service, and I really I had to get myself hyped up to be on the Zoom.
Okay.
And then there are a handful of people on there that I haven't seen for a couple of years who are beautiful souls. I love these people so much. Some of them I met in Jamaica, and it's like to be there because I showed back up again when I didn't really. It wasn't like I kind of had to get myself to do it. The rewards that came out, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to experience this again. And it just feels like that is, even in the mushrooms, this is a really good example, I feel like, and I'm going to tell this story because it's not long, but it feels like there is, if even one person takes something out of this, there was a therapist that I worked with for a while who had 3, 4, 5 really pleasant mushroom experiences, and it's like mushrooms are the medicine. This is the best medicine, and I'm like, yeah, cool, yeah, I'm with you on that. I agree, And it's like every time I eat mushrooms, they just love me so much. I'm like, okay, that's great. And then came trip number 10,
right,
or whatever it was, whichever one the dice roll that wasn't the that easy breezy experience. And this individual immediately, within a week, said, I've just decided mushrooms are not for me, and completely walked away from it. And I promise, I have zero doubt in my mind, if that individual, and they may still come back eventually to this, but if they would have stuck with that experience and tried to understand, get in touch with what it was trying to show them about themselves, it would have been the most positive experience that they've ever had. If they would have just stuck through the process. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, for our culture, that, like you said, our culture is sick. We are just like, it doesn't work, throw it away. It doesn't work, throw it away. I'll go watch porn. I'll go stuff my face. I'll go do any number of things to distract myself from the discomfort in the phase of the process that I'm in. And so, I've seen you kind of take space from Psanctuary and then come back into it and then take a little space. And to me, that is such an important and valuable relationship to the process. It doesn't mean that you've pulled yourself out of it or cut the process off, but you're a part of the process itself.
It's are we in it for today, okay, or are we in it for the duration? Mm-hmm. And my view is that, am I not going to commune with God? I've made a commitment to God that I'm going to commune with God as often as possible in different ways. Mm-hmm. And mushrooms are definitely one of those ways. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, so maybe I'm not attending right now. That's today. Mm-hmm. I'm still in this process. Mm-hmm. I'm still in this space. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. There's... kind of to dovetail on that a little bit when we talk about being able to talk about it, being able to go there and come back. I probably already said this, but the community is really important. One of the things that, in the personal development world that I've been a part of for many years, you go through this process. You go through, we'll call it a ceremony. It's there's few different ones, but you go through them, and let's say it's a few days or maybe it's a week, but then when you come back, remember we talked about being reintroduced to society at your new stage, at your new level. When you come back, if you don't have people around you who've been part of that. Mm-hmm. You forget and you go back to your old behavior.
Yep.
And when I look at Sanctuary and I look at, integration and things like that, okay, great. I had an experience, good, bad, and different. If I don't have other people I can talk to about it,
100%.
who understand it, okay, then I have no possibility of benefiting from it. Okay,
That's so true.
because there are going to be times where, yes, it's great, and 9 times out of 10, it's a wonderful experience. And well, I mean, if we're talking about it in that sense, really what we're doing is we're talking about effectively getting drunk. We're going on a little vacation or whatever we want. It's not a spiritual
It's
thing.
more distraction.
Okay, it's I did this because I enjoyed it. But if we're like looking at it from a spiritual aspect, I'm part of a church, and I'm going to do this so that I can get something out of it. You can't go back to work. Okay, where you go every day and then and have those conversations. You got to be with other people who've experienced
100%.
the same thing. And so, like with that personal development group, I was really very involved in the home community. You go, you do these events, okay, for a few days or a week or whatever. But then when you come home, where do you land? Okay, and so for me, the big thing I need, let's be clear, I did it because what I get out of it. But I'm here doing that landing thing so that when you come home, you're not alone. Here's a place where you can come and talk to other people about it and be with them because they've been through it, they understand. And that's one of the biggest things about Sanctuary is you go and you have that really rough time. That, like you said, that's probably the most important journey you've ever taken. But now let's do the work with it.
Exactly. Honestly, I'm really grateful that you said that, and I just want to communicate out, So, I worked with over 1,000 people in Jamaica, and each one of those people had a minimum of 3 ceremonies in a week. And during that time, I felt really good about what we were doing. And it transformed a lot of lives. There was a lot of good that came out of that, for sure. And I began to realize there, particularly towards the end of that time, that I don't want to say that it was a disservice to people, but we sent a lot of people back into regular life without any community to come back to.
Right.
And so I say this specifically just in the hopes that there are maybe one of those 1,000 people who I feel a personal responsibility to. That if that has been your experience, and maybe you're ending up here listening to this, somehow trying to come to terms or I don't know, whatever the case might be, I really would like to specifically apologize, and also invite those individuals, if you are still seeking community and grounded, spiritually minded people who are operating professionally in this world, that it is here and it's happening. And that is so much of why we founded Sanctuary, was to make up for that. Again, not necessarily disservice. It was a lack of my own knowledge and understanding.
It's part of your journey.
For sure.
You go, as I said, that second phase in life. We go through and we learn to do things and we learn our skills. Okay, and we refine our skills so that we can, in the next phase, we can put them to practical use. In like people who start businesses and are really successful with them, there's this stat where most of them are over 40. There's a big stat where a lot of them are over 50 when they start their successful business. And you're like, well, that fits in with that whole quarter section of life. So you were getting skills you needed at that point in time so that you could. You're like, oh my gosh, we're like, this is a great thing that we're doing and we're missing something. And here you go.
For sure. Yeah. So no shame, no guilt, but still a sense of responsibility. I want to communicate that out. So, all right, we are going on an hour 30. Oh,
Okay.
120. Wait a second. Oh my gosh, we've hit 2 hours here, Greg. Is that right?
I have no idea.
Wow, that is right. Wow. Okay.
What I do know is that I've got to return some of this.
Last question. All right.
Okay.
If there's anybody throughout history, you already mentioned how powerful it is to be in ceremony with folks that you have a connection with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if there's anyone throughout history. Could be family member, could be Benjamin Franklin, could be whoever the heck you can. Up to 3 people that you would like to be in ceremony with.
Okay. And this is like one of those ones because there's so many people I'd want to do it with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to pick just 3 that I think are fun.
Okay.
Number 1, you. I love you.
Oh.
I would love to be in ceremony with you. So, 2, Jesus Christ. Like, if that's true, wow, what an experience. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And because of the times we're in, Donald Trump.
Okay. Wow.
Okay?
What would Donald Trump be like on mushrooms?
Yes.
Wow.
I saw that a few years ago. They're like,
Jesus and Donald Trump. All right.
okay.
All right. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah. I saw that some years ago. Somebody's like, yeah, somebody used to give Donald Trump mushrooms, and I just went, oh. Okay. So yeah, so we'll pick those 3 for the day.
I wonder if Bobby's convincing him yet. All right. Very good. Very good. Greg, thank you so much for just everything that you bring to the world, Sanctuary, and my life personally.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Till next time. Thanks.